All right, everybody, welcome back. Good afternoon. I hope you guys are doing well, and it's time for part 3 of our Nick Emmanwori deep dive. That's right, part number 3. It is the tape. Once again, I don't have the ability to actually put clips on screen. I've tried to do it before. It didn't work very well, and it would make this video take a lot longer to put out. So I think it's better to just do it this way, where I watch tape, I take notes, and then I talk through the notes in a video. So we're going to take a look at a couple of Nick Emmanwori's 2024 games. Specifically, we're going to start with his Week 2 game at Kentucky, which was considered by Pro Football Focus, at least, to be his best game of the year. And even if you don't think it was his best, it was one of his best, at least, I think. So Nick Emmanwori at Kentucky, 2024 Week 2. You can pull up the video of the game. You can pull up the feed of the game if you want to and try to follow along with me. I'm putting timestamps on all of these evaluations. So if you want to utilize the tape along with me, you can certainly do that. But let's get into it. Before I get into the video, however, if you like this video, please click the thumbs up button down below. It helps the channel out. Subscribe if you're new. Click the bell for notifications. We're going to be trying to do at least one video a day during the dead part of the off season. And when the season starts, we're going to be looking at 4 to 6 uploads a day. Become a channel member for $2 a month. Those are the best ways to help support the channel. So the Kentucky game was certainly one of his best. Mostly because he was just able to stay very efficient. I don't know if he did anything over the top amazing in this game when you compare it to some other games that he had, but he was able to just kind of do his job consistently throughout the game. So he played 47 snaps in this game, 32 run defense snaps, and 15 coverage snaps. I don't believe he allowed a single completion the whole game. He got targeted maybe once. He had 7 tackles and an interception, and 15 of his snaps came in the box, 18 as a free safety, 13 in the slot. So he was really able to do a great job of showcasing his various abilities on a football field by playing different roles and wearing different hats throughout the game. So we're going to get started off pretty early here with something that I didn't really like seeing. Very early in the first quarter, he's lined up in the box. There's an inside run, just like an inside zone run, and I thought he was passive. I think he took a bad angle on the play, and because of that, the run went for a first down. So first time I notice him, it's not necessarily in a very positive way. And as the first quarter goes on, we actually get to the end of the middle point of the first quarter, rather. So 7:30 left in the first quarter. I feel like I could be wrong. Sometimes it's really hard to tell what's going on when it comes to stuff like this. Safety tough tape is really tough to sink into sometimes, but I feel like I do see some passiveness triggering downhill on his part, and generally speaking, his coverage drops are a mix of single high and two high looks. So we're seeing the fact that they trust him in different roles, they trust him to do different responsibilities. So you are seeing the single high stuff that indicates his range, you are seeing the two high stuff, so that's good at least. 5:54 in the first quarter, he picks up a post route by the slot receiver, and the coverage helps create a quarterback sack. As near as I can tell, the quarterback, I can't remember the name of the Kentucky quarterback last year, it looked like he was looking at the post route, and Emmanwori's coverage kind of scared him off, and it created a sack. At 1:23, there was one play where he was basically, I believe he was the single high safety, and he just didn't look very comfortable reading the quarterback's eyes in zone. It didn't seem like he had a very good idea of where he was supposed to go. He kind of got caught in no man's land. Now, the play didn't go anywhere, but I felt like he kind of got caught in no man's land. And we had gotten all the way through the first quarter and through some of the second quarter, and I just thought he was relatively uninvolved to this point. That first quarter was just kind of dead. There wasn't really much to say. Some of it is the nature of the safety position, but I found him to be a little bit uninvolved to that point. Once we get to about the 8-minute mark of the second quarter, there's one play where I thought he did a good job crossing from right to left before starting on the right side pre-snap and then going over to the left side to get a run. comes up and makes the tackle. He is a good form tackler. You can see his striking power really helping him make these tackles. There's another play where he starts 8 yards back, and he comes up and makes a good run fit, and he brings the running back down like that. Like, it's a very quick thing. It's something that you can see him just kind of strike, and then the play is dead. He's not going to get dragged a lot. He's not going to get pushed 3 yards down the field. He's just going to lay his hit, and then the play is over. There was a really, really cool play at 6:16 of the second quarter, I thought. At the snap, he's shifting left at the snap. And I'm saying left from his perspective to follow the motion of the receiver. And then the play ends up going to his right. It's like a running play. So basically the idea is the motion brings the defender to the other side of the field and gets their momentum going that way. And then the handoff goes the opposite way. And I thought that he did a great job as soon as the handoff goes, triggering downhill on change of direction to chase the play. Now, it did end up going for a 7-8 yard gain. The play worked fairly well, but I thought Nick did a really good job getting on top of it and shutting it down as quickly as he could. Because if he had slipped on his change of direction or been slow, then it probably would have been a much bigger gain. So that was the first time in this game where I thought, okay, we're seeing something a little bit stand out here. A little bit later in the second quarter, there was one play where he came up on a run fit, filled his hole really well, and lowered the boom on a running back to just immediately shut the play down, prevented a first down, and brought up a short yardage situation. You see his striking power on plays like that. It's a very pretty rep. He hits his run fit and just completely stalls out the running back's momentum. One of my favorite plays from him in this game. There's one play with a little more than 2 minutes left in the second quarter where he comes up from the slot to clean up a missed tackle. There's a lot of cleaning up missed tackles in his game, watching the tape from South Carolina. So, you know, his teammates, not the greatest tacklers in the world. There's a lot of situations where he comes up and cleans up where they left a little bit of a mess. And you see how good a tackler he is. He's not allowing extra yards. He's not allowing these guys to fall forward. He's just striking them, and the play's over most of the time. 1:39 left in the second quarter. He's kind of playing like a center field role. He's kind of just freelancing a little bit, and he comes up on a quarterback scramble to make the tackle. Nice little play. Thought he did a good job coming up and kind of serving as a quarterback spy. I don't think that was the intention of the play, but that ends up being kind of the result. He does a good job breaking down in the open field and wrapping up to make sure the quarterback doesn't get away from him. That got us into the second half. There was one play where it looked like he just didn't really have anything to do, so he just came on a late blitz. Nothing really came of it, but there was that one play where he didn't really have much going on, so he just decided, hey, I'm going to go try to get to the quarterback here. There's a single high safety rep at 11:40 in the third quarter, but the pressure got to the quarterback so quickly, nothing really happened. Later in the third quarter, comes up from deep. He was dropping deep. He was the deep safety on the play, and he laid the wood on a run tackle. The run did gain a lot of yards, but he was able to clean it up. It was obviously not his responsibility to stop the run on that play, and he came up and just laid the wood. Very next play, I think, was pretty much exactly the same. He drops deep, and then he just explodes upward to get to the running back. It's those moments that make you think this guy could be very, very special in this league, because you see the willingness to gun downhill aggressively, even when he's dropping deep, to bring a running back down. Now, this was one rare instance where I thought he got bulldozed a little bit and gave up yards after contact, but he did ultimately escort his man out of bounds. And then you get to the first play of the fourth quarter, and he makes his pick six, which was his big trademark play of this game. He makes a great zone drop from the box. He's basically lined up in, I don't know if you would call it the box or the slot, but he's up kind of near the line of scrimmage, and he just drops back into zone on an outside receiver and makes the interception. Now, it's a really bad throw. It shouldn't have been made, but he does a really good job getting back. This is one of those examples where you see his speed and his athleticism making quarterbacks regret challenging him. They don't expect him to be able to get back there like that, and he does because he's such a freak. You see his range, you see his speed. He reads the quarterback's eyes really well on this play, very decisive in how he goes for it, and then he guns it downhill to return it for a 26-yard touchdown. Now, after the pick six, I didn't see him in the game again. I may have missed him, but I'm pretty sure he left the game because it was garbage time. Because it was 31-6 at that point in the fourth quarter. I think they just pulled him, and I think other players got pulled as well. So I stopped watching at that point. If he did come back in the game at some point, I didn't see it. Okay, so that was the Kentucky game. There's another game we got to talk about, though, and this is going to be kind of the other side. LSU the next week, home against LSU. This was a little bit of a low point for his season. This was one of his bad games, and he had more than one, but this was one of the games that made people go, this guy has a ways to go. Wasn't all bad, but there was definitely some bad stuff in it. He played 68 snaps, 39 in coverage, 26 against the run, and 3 as a pass rusher. 9 tackles, 1 pick. Mostly played in the box. 17 snaps as a free safety and 8 snaps in the slot. Honestly, the first quarter was dead. I didn't notice anything with him in the first quarter. LSU didn't run that many plays, though, so I don't think that was an indictment on him. LSU's offense went nowhere in that first quarter, so he didn't have a chance to get involved. We picked things up in the second quarter. He chops down Mason Taylor after about a 20-yard gain on a throw over the middle. It wasn't his man. He was kind of the deep safety, and he just came up to clean up. I think it was the other safety who got beat, actually, so he just comes up to clean up. He was making a cover 3 drop on the left side of the field, and he just comes up to make the tackle in front of him. Not much to it, but necessary play. A little bit later, he's lined up as basically the outside linebacker on an inside zone run, and I think he just completely overruns the play and whiffs on the tackle. The running back cuts back, and he's completely out of position. So you see him kind of just overrun things a little bit, which is something you will notice if you watch his tape. So that was not a very good rep from him. That was one of his 2 missed tackles on the game. A little bit later in the second quarter, there's a snap where he's the single high safety on an all-out blitz. Kind of interesting that they have him as the single high in an all-out blitz situation, but they trust him in that role as the last line of defense. There's a draw play a little bit later. Actually, it's the very next play where he's the deep safety. LSU runs a running back draw, a shotgun draw, and Emmanwori completely slips trying to come up in run support, and because of the slip, he cannot get involved in the play, and the receiver blocks him out of the play, and it ends up going for a touchdown. And while slipping is an accident and it happens, I do think he needed to be a lot more aggressive in how he came up. He looked a little bit passive coming up to support the run, and I thought that cost him an opportunity to make a tackle before the end zone. A little bit later in the second quarter, there's another outside linebacker rep where he just kind of drops into, I guess it's man coverage on Mason Taylor. Mason Taylor does catch a little 5-yard out, but Emmanwori just immediately pushes him out of bounds. Not much to say. He kind of gave up the short pass because better than giving up something else, so not much to say. Later in the second quarter, blows through a wide receiver block to get involved in the play on a receiver that was running for Yak. I thought on this play he actually did a good job fighting through a receiver block. He just kind of blew him up, got through him, and was able to help make a play on a receiver that was running for extra yards. A little bit later, there was one play where he comes from right to left in coverage, and I thought he was a little bit hesitant getting over in time, and he allowed a 20-yard reception because of it. I thought he was just a little bit late. He did wrap up and get the receiver down quickly after the catch, but I thought his trigger was just a little bit hesitant. I thought his trigger was just a little bit passive. I think he needed to actually be a little bit more decisive in his drop. So that was not a great rep for him either. And then you get to the second half where we get into some really rough stuff. First play of the second half, he takes a disastrous angle on a shotgun draw that results in a 20-yard gain. Probably should have been like a 5 or 6 yard gain at most. He just takes a false step to get to the inside, and he gives up the outside contain. And then when he comes up to try to make the tackle, he completely whiffs, takes a terrible angle, and what could have been a short gain or even a moderate gain turns into a pretty big gain. So this was definitely one of the lowlights for him, just a bad angle indecisive, takes a false step inside, ends up out of position because of it, and doesn't get outside in time. Couple plays, I think actually the next play, he falls on the pile to get involved in a shotgun draw tackle. Not much to say there. There's a goal line play where I thought he did a really good job coming up in run support, basically playing a linebacker role. But he did get pushed back an extra yard at contact, which is not something you typically see from him, and something we hope we don't see from him in the NFL going forward. A little bit later in the third quarter, another terrible run fit. Goes for about 15 yards. He gives up outside contain on a draw play. Just it looks like it's his responsibility to maintain leverage on the outside, and he lets the play get outside of him, and it ends up going for about 15. Emmanwori eventually pushes him out of bounds, but you see the kind of overrunning of the play, the indecisiveness, just a couple things that prevented him from adequately stopping the play. And I think that for as much as he put himself in a bad position, he probably would have been fine if he didn't have that little hesitation hop where, like, he's stopping and he's trying to, and he's realizing, okay, I got to run to the outside to make this play, but he kind of hops up before he goes. I think if he didn't do that little hop, he would have been fine. He lined up on the defensive line with 4:28 in the third quarter, got sent on a blitz. The throw was too quick for him to get there, so it didn't really mean anything. But I think the very next play, he gets sent on another blitz. This one where he's coming up from deep, and he blitzes the middle, and the throw goes to his vacated zone for a first down on third down. Now, again, I'm not saying this is his fault. I'm sure that he was doing his job and doing what he was told to do when he blitzed, but the zone he vacated did end up giving up the key first down. Makes a great tackle on a check down coming up to clean it up. Just kind of a play where Nussmeier lobs it out to his, I think it's either his tight end or his fullback. And the initial defender gets up there, misses the tackle. And Emmanwori comes up from deep and just cleans it up without allowing a big gain. And then you have another bit of a low light for him late in the third. He's late on his zone drop. He's supposed to drop back into coverage a little bit more aggressively, I think. He ends up getting back late. I think this is on Kyron Lasse, and he gets targeted. And because he was late in his drop, he commits pass interference, so he doesn't give up the reception. Now, I don't know if he had to commit PI to prevent the reception, but he did end up doing it because he was panicked because he was scrambling to get back into the play. I think he panicked because he was late and he just grabbed him. I don't necessarily think he had to, but if he had been a little bit more measured and timely in his drop into coverage, it would have been fine. A couple plays later, lined up as a linebacker, comes up to make a run stop after some broken tackles. Again, he's cleaning up the mess. Heavily involved in a pile of bodies on a short yardage stop, does a really good job throwing himself in there to get a short yardage stop. And then we get to his highlight of the game, his interception. It's a play with about 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter. He shows blitz. He's up at the line. Looks like he's going to be sent. And then at the snap, he drops into coverage. Nussmeier makes a terrible throw right to him. Don't get me wrong. It's not the greatest interception you're ever going to see. But he lobs it right to Emmanwori. He picks it off. And he takes it back 100 yards for a pick six. But there's a penalty on the return that takes the interception back. So, unfortunately, he doesn't get credit for the touchdown. It probably would have sealed the game, or basically sealed the game. Instead, South Carolina ends up punting not too long after, and LSU gets another chance. So, there wasn't much to the pick six either, honestly. He just turned around and started running and ran in a straight line, and he was faster than everybody else. But, hey, he looked very comfortable dropping back into coverage after the showing of blitz. So, yay. Has to clean up on an outside missed tackle and a shotgun draw. So, there's this one particular play here where he cleans up for his teammate's missed tackle. So, again, he's doing that. But then he makes one of the most costly plays of the game with about 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter. He's in center field on a zone drop, and he just doesn't get enough depth. The receiver, I think it's Lasse behind him, gets depth, and he doesn't. And because of that, he's not in the play when Nussmeier throws it. And he ends up falling down, trying to get back into the play. It looks really bad on tape. It just does. So that ends up being a 20-yard play that gets LSU inside the 10-yard line, gets them into first and goal in a must-have touchdown to win situation. They're up down by 4. And this was one of the big plays that made them win. So it was a pretty bad play, pretty bad spot. Now, there was a goal line sequence following the 20-yarder, but Emmanwori, to my knowledge, was not on the field. I don't know if he got hurt on the previous play where he fell down. I don't know if they took him out of the game because they didn't want him out there. I don't actually know. I'm hoping it's the injury thing, because if it's pulling him because they didn't want him on the field on the decisive goal line sequence, that's not a great indication. So I feel pretty confident he wasn't out there. If someone wants to correct me, please do, but I'm pretty sure he wasn't out there. I just don't know why. All right, so that's the tape. That's one really good game he played and one really mixed game that he played. So we got a full picture here. More stuff coming tomorrow. I'll see you guys later on. Go Hawks. Catch you on Twitch tonight. Catch you on YouTube tomorrow. And we're going to keep on going with these deep dives until there's nothing left to talk about. So let me know what you guys think. Let me know how you guys feel. I tried to provide both sides of this. There's a lot to both sides of the Nick Emmanwori discussion. Is he one of the greatest safety prospects of all time, or is he just a RAS merchant? There are arguments to be made to both sides. All right, I'll see you guys later. Go Hawks. Everyone have a great day. And more stuff coming soon. Tomorrow we're going to dig into the rookie tight end, Elijah Arroyo. Or maybe tomorrow. Maybe we'll do it the next day. Maybe tomorrow, maybe the next day. Who knows? But let me know what you think about Emmanwori after all this.